Shazam is an interesting character with a rather crazy history involving him being a part of the DC universe. Today we're going to be covering an older storyline in which Superman and Shazam actually met. Now, this is before the New 52 renaming of him, so he is actually known as Captain Marvel at this time, and Shazam is the actual old wizard, okay? There's also no kids. This is like an earlier version of Shazam where it's just Billy Batson. If you're wondering where you are, well, this is Comicstorian, and we do the complete story series where we take some of your favorite pop culture icons and we break down their stories into digestible bites so that we can read them dramatically back to you and give you like an audiobook motion comic drama kind of a thing. I hope you guys enjoy. At the Rock of Eternity, the great wizard Shazam sits on his throne thinking. They have come to a crossroad. Fate rises up from the dirt like the rock that builds the mountain. He can see time's horizon as easily as a sailor that sees the sun dip into the surface of the ocean. They are entering the second age of great heroes. It is before the coming of the Amazon, the Speedster, and the Space Knight. As time passed, the world begins to know Superman and how he protected Metropolis. But in Fawcett City, another hero is about to be known. Across the sky, a pilot begins to lose control of his plane, and it begins to head straight into the busy street. The frantic people begin to run for cover just before that plane hits, except instead of crashing, the plane stops. The people slowly begin to open up their eyes and a voice tells them, "Don't worry, everything is under control." They look back and they see him, Captain Marvel. Shazam watches Captain Marvel from his throne, for Captain Marvel is his disciple, his herald, his champion. When Captain Marvel says the wizard's name, Shazam, the powers of the gods themselves run through his veins. This is the first of many steps that Captain Marvel will take on this journey, but he is in a battle with fate, and fate is an emotionless creature, as well as an inexhaustible foe. Meanwhile, over in Metropolis, a group of thieves begin to steal the ancient artifacts from Russia in a museum. The leader of the group tells the others that they need to be careful. The artifacts they have before them are the key to the Ascension. The powers below demand it. And that's when Superman flies in holding the lookout, stating, "I really don't like the sound of that." The thieves reach into their pockets, all beginning to pull out stabs that couldn't possibly fit there. And Superman watches, telling them, "Oh boy." Swirling blue energy begins to gather before Superman, and from it, a giant creature appears. It lunges at Superman, knocking him to the ground, but Superman's heat vision easily begins to push it back. Superman swings, hitting the monster, but the creature begins to turn to smoke. He looks around and sees the thieves are gone, and there's a coin at his feet. He picks it up and he sighs. Magic. The next morning over at Fawcett City, Captain Marvel finds himself fighting against a pair of giant robots trying to destroy the Fawcett City Solar Center construction site. The robots begin to kick down some buildings, and Captain Marvel thinks to himself, a few months ago he would have loved to have seen some fire-breathing robots up close. But strangely enough, it seems to have lost its appeal now that he's here. One of the robots tries to step on Captain Marvel, so he grabs and rips that leg off, throwing it into the head of another. He then turns to fly over to the other robot, but the fallen one grabs a fuel truck, throwing it into the air. Captain Marvel grabs that truck, spinning it around, throwing it back down, blowing it up, and the robot. He then spins back to the walking robot, shooting through it, ripping out its wiring from the inside out. Once these robots are taken care of, Dr. Bruce Gordon, the Solar Center's chief scientific advisor, steps out to personally thank Captain Marvel for his services. But along with his thanks, he asks if it'd be possible to keep the wreckage so that they can figure out why they may have been attacked. Captain Marvel laughs, "Ha! I usually mount the big ones in my den." And Bruce asks, "Really?" Captain Marvel flies up, telling him, "No, it was a joke, but if it's alright with the authorities, you can keep them both." Later that night in the abandoned subway, Billy Batson and his friend Scott read the paper, and Scott says, "Mount them in my den? You're such a dork." Billy shouts, "No way, it was funny, and get a load of me in the newspaper smashing those robots." The two laugh, and as Scott looks at Billy's makeshift tent, he tells Billy that he really should consider coming up and staying with them. He yells no, he's not going back up, just to be put into another foster home, and then he holds up the paper stating, "Besides, all I have to do is say one word and I'm fine." As he looks at the paper, he sees an article about how the Metropolis Museum was robbed of its Russian artifacts, and he comes up with a great idea. Elsewhere, Dr. Thaddeus Savannah of Savannah Industries and his vice president David Tan ask why he isn't dead yet. What Gordon was working on was only supposed to be a PR project, destined to fail, not actually work. Looks like they just need to learn more about this Captain Marvel. Back with Billy, he heads over to the McKean History Museum, and he notices a group of thieves breaking in. He tells himself that he knew it. They're here for the old Russian stuff. Well, Shazam! A bolt of lightning strikes down in the dark alleyway, and as that smoke clears, Billy stands there as Captain Marvel. He heads inside, telling the thieves that he's pretty sure they're only allowed to take things from the gift shop. Even then, he'd have to pay for it. As the men turn around, they show themselves to be the same men that Superman fought back in Metropolis. But this time, they conjure up a green energy, and two goopy monsters rise out of the floor. Billy laughs, stating, let's see what these guys are made of. And 2 seconds later, Billy is knocked out of the museum into the street. As he gets up, a voice calls out asking if he's okay, because it looks like he could use some help. He looks up and he sees Superman floating before him. Billy jumps to his feet shouting, "Wow, you're Superman! Oh man, it's such an honor to meet you, and holy moly, you're Superman!" Superman laughs, telling him, "Yeah, that's me. But before he could finish, the two creatures burst through the doors of the museum, and Superman says that it looks like he's got his hands full here. Billy nervously laughs, telling him that it's nothing he can't handle, but you know what? I could always use some help. The two begin to take out one of the creatures, separating them, but as Superman throws one to the ground, the monster gets back up, hitting him with a magical energy blast. His upper body begins to get covered in crystal, so Billy yells for him, "Hey, hang on, Superman!" He grabs the monster, throwing it into another one, getting ready to hit Superman, giving him some time to help. Superman falls back to the ground, so Billy pulls his arm back, telling him, "Don't move, I don't want to hurt you." He focuses and punches the crystal, shattering it, freeing Superman without hitting him, and he asks if he's okay. Just then, one of the monsters jumps on the two of them, so Superman tells him he's all right, and he blows out his arctic breath, freezing the monster in place. Billy looks at the creature, stating, "Holy moly!" But before they could deal with the monster, the other begins to fire a second magical blast. Billy pushes Superman out of the way, taking the hit, but Billy deflects the magical energy, and he calls out, "Wait for it." Once he's close, he grabs the monster, throwing it into the air, and then Superman freezes it, letting it shatter when it hits the ground. Billy shouts, laughing, "I wish I had that ability!" And Superman tells him that he seems to be getting by just fine. He shrugged off that blast like it wasn't even there. And Billy tells him, "Yeah, it was a crystalline force beam. It's actually how malice trolls excrete their waste." Superman looks at the broken pieces of the monster and he asks, "You fought these before?" And Billy tells him, "No, I just know things. Wisdom of Solomon." Afterwards, the two of them fly off to Mount Everest, where Billy asks Superman what it's like to grow up with powers. Superman tells him all about the things he used to do when he was younger, and as he mentions his father, Superman trails off. He says that he's sorry, but he really doesn't talk about himself like this with anyone. He's made it a point to keep his personal life and his hero life separate. Can't really go on stating who he specifically is. Billy tells him, "Yeah, I get it. I just think it kind of stinks." Meanwhile, back at Fawcett City, down on the streets, the thieves from before gather around a man that is tied up and bound, as the leader tells everyone that they're about to begin the ritual. From the powers below, from the dark depths beneath us, grant your disciples the gifts. Join us on earth in the flesh of this vessel. Come to us, Satan. I am Belial. Come to us, Beelzebub, Asmodeus, Cretus. Give this man your gifts. Now, Timothy, claim your birthright. Say the name. Say it. The man, Timothy, looks around panicked and quietly says, "Sabak." Just then the ground cracks and a dark red energy rushes out of the ritual site into the sky. Across the city at the Solar Center construction site, the sounds of destruction can be heard and the sky begins to turn dark. One of the workers begins to shout, "Oh God!" And as a part of Bruce's face turns blue, he says, "No, it's not about God at all." Back at Mount Everest, Superman hears the sounds of chaos and he tells Billy that their talk's gonna have to wait. There's something going on back at Fawcett City and they have to go now. As the eclipsed light shines, both Sabak and Eclipso have risen. But to know more about Eclipso, we may have to look into the past, when nature created what was known as the Spirit of Vengeance. It was birthed to maintain order in the universe and administer retribution to punish the wicked. However, unattached from a human host, the spirit lacked a sense of morality. Unable to destroy its creation, the universe confined the spirit into 1,000 black diamonds, one of which made its way to the remote Pacific island of Diablo. There, Bruce found himself fighting against the diamond's power, but in the end, he lived and claimed that diamond. Now he is the one who possesses the gemstone of the dark spirit of Calypso, or rather, it possesses him. Back in the current time, though, Billy and Superman arrive back at the city to find Sabak destroying everything in his path. Billy tells him that he can feel it. There's a large amount of magic here. Sabak shouts for everyone that they should flee or succumb to the power that burns throughout him. Billy and Superman swoop down, picking Sabak up, and Billy asks, "Do bad guys always talk like this?" Sabak breaks free from the hero's grasp and turns back, breathing fire in their faces, flying off. Superman dusts himself off, stating, "So apparently he can breathe fire. Gonna have to watch out for that one." Meanwhile, back at the construction site, Eclipso places the small black diamond into one of the solar panels, stating that it's time for him to get to the workers. "For today is a very dark day, and where others see darkness, I see light." A dark light beam shoots up into the sky, and as the world darkens, Billy stops moving and shouts for Superman not to move. Just then, the dark rays of light pierce through the sky and down into the people of Earth, turning them into Eclipso's thralls. As this happens, back over at Dr. Thaddeus' office, he watches, and David says that their agent Spec has returned. Thaddeus tells Spec that he is impressed. How did he manage to avoid the fire and brimstone falling out of the skies? Spec says that he's always been good at walking between the raindrops. He just has to give the information that was requested. Would he care to know where Captain Marvel lives? And how about when he's most vulnerable? Over at the construction site, Eclipso looks around, stating that this was much easier than he thought. Now the real work can begin. Just then, the solar panel with the black diamond is destroyed, and Calypso shouts, asking, "What trickery is this?" Superman tosses a piece of the solar panel to the side, stating, "No trick, I just took apart the machine, and now you're next." Calypso grabs the black diamond, shining its light on Superman, telling him, "Hardly. You smell of flesh, of blood and bone. You are mortal. However, it is not your heart that I am seeing, but your humanity. Come, Superman, fight me." Just then, all of the thralls under Calypso's trance rush and grab onto Superman to hold him down. Calypso then tells him that he should be able to fight them off, so long as he's comfortable killing a few of them on the way. Up in the sky, Billy is currently fighting Sabak though, and as Sabak yells, there's something that Billy notices. Every time the Sabak refers to himself, he never says his name. After knocking Billy to the ground, Sabak grabs him by the hair, shouting, "I am an instrument of evil, the right hand of every entity, every lord of darkness that fills my name." Billy asks, "Fills your name, huh?" And he thought so, punching him. Back with Superman vibrates the air around him, gently pushing the people off of him, and he escapes into the sky. He then scans the ground, looking for where it all began, and that's when he sees the ritual site where Sabak was brought forth. Superman crashes through the ground onto the site, disrupting the chanting men, and slowly the sun shines bright once more. Calypso grasps onto the people fading away, and he shouts, "Don't think for a second that this is over. This is just the beginning." Over with Billy, he continues to battle against Sabak, and as he easily dodges the attacks, he wraps Sabak's head up with his cape. He then punches him, telling him, "My name brings fear into creatures like you." Sabak shouts, breathing fire, yelling, "I am no simple demon. I am the wielders of the powers of the immortal Dark Lords." And Billy asks, "A creature with no name? No title?" And Sabak screams, "I am Lord Sabak!" Just then a black bolt of lightning shoots through Sabak, reverting him back to his human form, and he falls into the ocean. Timothy gasps for air, trying to state the name once more, but Billy picks him up, telling him, "Don't. Not a word from you." Later that night, Billy heads down into the abandoned subway so that he and Scott can read the paper of his most recent adventure, when he suddenly hears something. He shines his flashlight down the tunnel, asking who's there, and a group of military men walk out of the shadows and begin to fire. As Billy begins to hear the sound of guns firing, he shouts out, "Shazam!" and he transforms before the bullets can hit him. He runs through the bullets, taking out one group of men, and as the second group arrives, they start shooting. Billy quickly grabs the guns, crushing them, knocking out the second wave, stating, "That was fun, right, Scott?" He turns and his eyes widen as he realizes that even though the bullets couldn't hurt him, they can hurt Scott, and they did. Billy grabs him, rushing him to the hospital, shouting that he needs help. Then he watches for hours as the doctors try to revive Scott. But as one doctor looks back at the clock, he drapes a blanket over Scott's body. Over in the police station, the detectives question one of the men found on the subway. The man doesn't say a word when suddenly there's a crash coming from outside. Billy storms through the halls and into the interrogation room as the officer yells for him to wait. He knocks the table against the wall, breaking and grabbing the man, asking, "Who hired you?" The detectives pull their guns, telling Billy that they have a job to do, but Billy ignores them. And the man says, "I ain't telling you anything." Billy grabs the man by the head, slamming him into the ground, telling him, "You can tell me the truth, or I am going to crush your head." And after that, I'll walk down into the holding cells where the others are, holding your headless body, and they'll tell me. So, for the last time, who hired you? A short while later, over at Thaddeus' office, he sits on his desk grumbling how chimpanzees on roller skates could have done a better job at killing the boy. But as David begins to speak, he stops, and Thaddeus looks back, asking what is it. Outside, Captain Marvel's floating there, staring into Thaddeus' eyes. Billy pulls back his fist, and with one punch, he sends a shockwave blowing out all of the windows on the top floor. The blast knocks Thaddeus down, so Billy picks him up by the throat. Thaddeus begs him not to do it. He can give him anything. Billy yells that he doesn't have anything he wants except his life. Thaddeus struggles, begging for his life, and Billy asks, "What? Don't hurt you? That's all you got left for me? I'm trying to find a reason to let you live, but I can't." He continues to crush Thaddeus' throat, but before he could completely finish, he lets him go, and Thaddeus falls to the floor coughing. The next morning, Superman heads into work as his alter ego, Clark Kent. Lois tells him that it looks like she's taken the first page today. Superman's new friend went on a rampage and attacked Thaddeus Savannah in his own tower. A few moments later, Superman rushes out, making his way to Mount Everest to look for Billy. He flies down shouting to Billy that he's gonna have to pay for his actions. He attacked a police station, assaulted a prisoner, he destroyed the entire top floor of the office building. And Billy looks back, crying, stating, "I know, it's all my fault." Superman pauses and he asks, "Are you okay?" And Billy tells him, "No, I didn't mean to. I just can't believe that Scott is gone." Superman asks, "Scott? The boy you brought into the emergency room? You must have done everything that..." Billy stands up shouting, "You don't understand! Those men were after me and they shot Scott. Scott was my best friend. I got my best friend killed." Superman asks, "What are you talking about?" And Billy says, It's hard to explain. I'll just show you." He quietly says, "Shazam." And a bolt of lightning strikes down, reverting Billy to his child form. Billy looks at Superman, telling him, "My name's Billy Batson, but maybe it's too dangerous to be Billy Batson anymore." Superman stares for a moment and he asks, "Who did this to you?" Later, at the Rock of Eternity, the great wizard Shazam says that he is here as a courtesy. And Superman shouts, asking, "What have you done?" Shazam stands up from his throne, stating that he has bestowed the powers of a god upon a mortal. It is his province to do so. The boy is more adept and more tenacious than any. As Superman stops, "He is a child! Little boys should go to school, play with their friends. Their biggest concern should be homework and schoolyard crushes, not that their best friend is going to be murdered." Shazam the wizard lets out a long sigh, telling him, "It is his fate to bear the mantle." Superman turns away, telling him, "All you magic people, always talking about fate and destiny. This is wrong. It is a fate chosen by a man. He is just a boy." And Shazam tells him that he is a boy who could use guidance. So later, Superman dresses in his suit and tie and he heads into the old, decrepit apartment building, walking past the drunkard and into a room. He opens the door and he says hi. And Billy, in his human form, asks, "What do you want?" Superman looks around and he asks, "This is where you live?" And Billy asks, "Who are you? Someone from social services?" Superman smiles, telling him, "Now," and he unbuttons his shirt to show the S, the Superman S. He sits down next to Billy and he tells him, "My real name is Clark." Shazam! And we have concluded, and I have transformed back into normal Benny Potter. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this storyline. I'm actually doing some research, but from what I can gather, this was a weird one. So we found this story on Comicsology, and it looks like it was originally a digital release, and then it just ends there. The story that they told here, I was super engrossed with. Shazam meeting Superman, and then Superman being his, guiding him, being the guy that's gonna show him how to do things. I don't know. I'm looking to see if there's more to the story, but this may be the only story that happened because this may have come out right around the time of the New 52 reboot, in which we got an entirely new origin for Shazam, and he was renamed to Shazam. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'm going to keep looking for some Shazam content. If you're wondering about my voice, yes, I did lose it, but it is coming back very slowly, but I couldn't miss giving you guys some Shazam content. Hope you guys enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more comic books, pop culture, and fun times right here at the Comicstorian channel.